Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Richmond City Council meeting, which I'll call to order for Monday, September 13, 2021. Madam Clerk, on the minutes.
Thank you, Your Worship. If there can be a motion to adopt the minutes of the regular council meeting held on July 26th, adopt the minutes of the regular council meeting for public hearings held on September 7th, and receive for information the Metro Vancouver Board in Brief dated July 31st.
All right.
So moved.
Moved and seconded. All right. We've got a couple comments or something. Councillor McPhail.
Thank you, Your Worship. And in regards to the Metro Vancouver Board in Brief, on our Council 23, the next phase of engagement on a cannabis production and processing emission regulation, well, I'm glad to see that we've gone through, the first phase and that there will be a second phase of consultation happening. And because I know there was concerns from the community regarding odor and lighting, and I'm just wondering if staff know what the timeline for the next phase is, and when will we have the opportunity to have input into that or see the results of the first phase?
Can anyone help us out there? Anyone familiar with the Metro Vancouver process?
Mr. Mayor, I don't have a timeline, but staff can certainly follow up with Metro Vancouver and share that with Council.
All right, thank you. And just one more point on our Council 24 about the Mosquito Control Service amending bylaw, and it was to allow Richmond to join the Metro Vancouver Nuisance Mosquito Control Program. And so how is that going to work now? Is it cost neutral, the changeover? Because I understood that we did it or we contracted out to someone. So what is the difference then?
Your Worship, to Councillor McPhail, there will be no change in service and nor change in the program. Effectively, we had the same contractor last year as Metro Vancouver, and we'll be continuing that service.
All right, thanks very much.
Okay, Councillor McNulty.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to follow up on Councillor McPhail's comment on mosquito control. Does the contract include spraying or an annual spraying like we used to do when it was within the city? Or just what benefits are we getting? Is it sort of on need or whenever we request it?
Through the Chair to Councillor McNulty, pardon me. Staff can provide an update by memorandum. At this point, I don't have all the details.
Okay, I think it's important. I had a few comments from people about the number of mosquitoes out on the dike, the West Dike, and not knowing the severity of it. But usually we end up spraying, or we have in past. Whether we still do it or not, or it's not done, I think it's important. So if you could do a follow up, I'd appreciate that. And the other, I had a question on the cannabis, but that was well answered. On the carbon neutrality for Metro Vancouver, are they looking at, maybe to you, Your Worship, or Councillor Steves, is this Metro Van's jurisdiction only, or are they bringing in what everybody's doing to achieve carbon neutrality with the various municipalities? I'm reading it that it had been received, and it talked about reductions, et cetera, et cetera. But, for example, what Richmond is doing, we're doing a good job. Are we in their statistics, if you wish?
Councillor Steves, do you want to answer that as a member of the Climate Action Committee?
Yeah. Basically, they're taking into consideration about all the cities are doing. Eventually, I think we'll be getting information widespread to encourage others that aren't doing as much as we are doing. But I've raised that at the committee level. They haven't done it yet.
Okay, thank you.
All right, with that, we'll call the question then. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. There's any agenda additions or deletions?
None, Your Worship.
Okay, so that brings us to the presentation. We'll call on Jordan Oy, the chair of the Richmond Public Library Board, and Susan Walters, the chief librarian, who will present the library's 2020 annual report. Welcome, folks.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you.
And good evening, Mayor Brody and councillors. So my name is Jordan Oy, and I'm the chair of the Richmond Public Library Board, and I'm here this evening with Chief Librarian Susan Walters to present our 2020 annual report on behalf of the Library Board. So thank you for this opportunity to share how the library is continuing to support a connected and healthy community. We started off 2020 strong with plans and a vision for the year guided by our strategic plan. One key deliverable was introducing a new book dispenser at the Senior Center in the Minero Center for Active Living. However, within a month of that milestone, the global pandemic forced us, like many other organizations, to make the difficult decision to temporarily close our doors. Along with a number of other Richmond organizations, we needed to quickly determine how to operate in this new environment. More importantly, as a trusted resource for our community, we needed to figure out how to be there. This helped them navigate the challenges of remote working and learning, manage the inevitable social isolation and mental wellness concerns that follow, and the very real economic impacts of the pandemic. I know you've all had an opportunity to flip through our annual report, so I'll focus on 5 key highlights tonight. So with in-person programming suspended, staff quickly shifted their focus to online programming, pivoting overnight to provide support to parents with young children and those suddenly moonlighting as tutors. Within 2 weeks, children and parents were engaging in virtual story times, which soon expanded to include author visits, book clubs, and programs to support seniors and newcomers distanced from family and friends. When visiting the library to borrow print books wasn't an option, an online library card was created to provide residents without cards access to online materials and services. Over 2,400 new card holders joined regular library users in borrowing materials from a digital collection, enhanced by 13,000 new ebooks and audiobooks. Remarkably, we saw a 28% increase in digital circulation, underscoring the support we provided to residents in need of reading and learning materials. By May, our community was vocal in their need for access to print materials, and staff introduced a new and personalized low-contact service, curbside holds pickup. Through phone and email, library staff connected with residents to fill holds and create grab bags of quick pick titles, and then safely say hi in person during the handoff. For many of our regular customers, visiting the library is not only a daily outing, but a chance for them to connect with the community. In early summer, the library was able to safely develop and introduce protocols to welcome community physically back into our buildings. As a safe and valued space, residents were able to easily access computers and browse collections, pick up their holds, check out books, and receive one-on-one assistance from trusted library staff. To support a connected community, friendly phone calls and library book deliveries reduced some of the isolation experienced by homebound individuals. Also important was spreading the word about new and modified services and programs, including those offered by the city and our community partners, by our social media platforms and monthly e-newsletters. And to ensure no one would be restricted from using the library if struggling financially, the library temporarily paused late fines in 2020, something we were able to make permanent earlier this year. In spite of the pandemic, the library was able to continue delivering on our 2019 to 2021 strategic plan and develop new services that will continue to meet community need long after the pandemic ends. As you'll have seen in our report, the accomplishments we've achieved align with our 5 areas of strategic focus, which were developed with goals of council in mind. To conclude, like so many of us personally and so many organizations across the community, 2020 was not what we envisioned or planned for. But through the determination and perseverance of library staff and in collaboration with our city colleagues, we were able to find new and innovative ways to safely support the many needs of our community. I'd like to thank Mayor and Council for your ongoing support, which ensures that we can continue to be a vital and essential resource for our community. Susan and I would be pleased to answer any questions you might have.
All right, thank you, Jordan. Thank you, Susan. So we do have a couple questions. First of all, we'll go to Councillor Day.
Well, thank you so much for that report. I can't tell you how proud I am of the work that you guys have done over at the library. Maintaining access to the library during COVID-19 is an incredible accomplishment, and the way you've adapted to the new normal is just outstanding. So my question is, what do you think you're going to keep doing after we get back to normal? Because obviously some of these services have probably opened your eyes to, you know, how much you can actually communicate or connect with the community with these new ideas.
So through your worship, Councillor Day, I'll take that one. And I think some of the things that we really want to do is we recognized how important digital programming is. We've always had people come to our in-person programs, and while there is a high demand, and we're seeing a high demand for our programs that we have started with limited numbers this past week, we also know that there's many times that parents can't make it to the library, or that mom with a baby can't make it. It's not the ability to be able to still offer some programs virtually so that we can reach people where they are and where they need us. We'll definitely want to continue. And digital collections and going beyond just ebooks and e-audiobooks to ensure that we're providing access to learning resources. We had lynda.com. It morphed during the pandemic into LinkedIn Learning. And that's really been a huge support for people in our community wanting to learn a new skill as they're looking for new forms of employment or going back to school. So, and I think personalized service. We learned that with curbside holds pickup. Just connecting with people and being able to do that in different ways and to reach them where they're at and with what they need is really important, and it upholds many of our goals at the library.
Thank you. Do the digital services, especially when it comes to employment, like, learning new skills, does it actually save the people money, or is it the same cost as coming in person?
It would be, we don't offer as many programs in person for those skills because we have to work with community partners to do a lot of that. So the ability for someone in our community to access LinkedIn Learning whenever they want to. So if they're working shift work, but they're free at 1 o'clock to learn something new, they can log on to LinkedIn Learning. So I think it really benefits our community, and it's at no cost to them.
Thank you for the creativity.
All right,
welcome.
Councillor McNulty.
Thank you, Your Worship. I also echo my sincere congratulations to the Library Board for all that you do each time, but the fact that you carried us through the pandemic and continue to make Richmond very proud with regard to the library being the heart of the community, and it's measured by its library. So you've made a gathering place out of it, yet at a distance. So I have a couple of questions. I was extremely impressed to read that every child has a library card. Do we know how many have been given out over the period of time that this program has been in vogue? I think it's fantastic, grade 1, 4, and 8. It'd be nice also to give it to graduating seniors so that they continue the reading and when they can come back to our community. But anyhow, do we know the number?
Through Your Worship, to Councillor McNulty. I would have to look through the total number, but I believe it's over 1,200. I know that in 2020 we gave out over 620 new library cards. Prior to that, there had been a big boost as well. The one thing that we have going in our community is there's very few people that don't have a library card. We have a really large proportion of library cards registered to our residents. What we're trying to do as we moved away from fines in 2020 temporarily and permanently in 2021 is to get people back to allowing their children to have their own cards, because that was one of the things that was happening with family cards to manage the late fines. And now that we don't have those, we are seeing an uptick in library card registration. But I will find out that answer and get back to council as a whole.
Well, thank you for that. A tremendous program. The other one is probably in the sidelight, but to me, the fact that you opened up the second book dispenser. I was there in Hamilton. I think Councillor McPhail, His Worship, etc. When we opened up the Hamilton one at the community center, obviously it's very popular. Now that we're opening the second one, are there any areas where there might be a third or fourth one? Any thoughts and plans?
Yeah, through Your Worship, Councillor McNulty, we haven't talked about it yet, but I know that as we start to look at the city as a whole, and we're putting in new community centers in different areas, that is definitely something that we can consider. And I know that the Library Board has supported the funding of an RPL to go vehicle, which will be going out into the community, and that's something that we hope to be launching in 2022. So we are working on that right now because it's important that we can also connect with community with library staff. So, but we can definitely look at dispensers. I think based on where we get requests from the community that there is need, we can do that.
And my last one, I've got to give a shout out for the Friends of the Library, who are your sponsors, and having even now weekly book sales almost raising money. When I look at the donation that have come from them, I do have to give a shout out. And I understand there is a book sale at Cambie and 5 Road coming up. I think it's this weekend again, an opportunity for people to in person. With distancing and all the protocols in place, get it. So thank you very much to all the board of directors, a great job, and also to the community that continues to support our library. Congratulations to all.
All right, Councillor Au.
Yes, Your Worship. Thank you very much. Again, I would echo what my colleagues have already mentioned. Congratulations for a very successful year. And I have 4 brief questions to ask. The first one is about the Every Child a Library card. I think this is very good that we encourage our elementary school students to read. However, we know that for developing a habit in reading, we might have to start even earlier. So I remember that in the past, the library and the Richmond Health Department had a project that for any newborn babies, the parents should get a package with a book and some reading materials and talking about the importance of early reading. Because I think when kids come to grade 1, it might be already too late if they have already not established a habit in reading. So I don't know if this program is still going on or any other programs that would encourage families to help their kids to develop an early habit in reading.
Through your worship to Councillor Al, that program was originally funded by the provincial government, and that was one of the programs that had funding cut. So that is something, though, that as a library, we're looking to possibly work with a donor to continue that important service. But we do ensure that we are meeting parents when they're coming to baby times and our story times, and ensuring that they are registering their children for library cards at that time. And that's what those programs really are about. So many new moms have cards.
Okay, next question.
So is there any plan to ask the provincial government to support that program again, to fund the program again?
We're in the process right now of asking the provincial government for more funding, and we do have some one-time asks that will be coming up towards the end of the year. So that's something that we can definitely consider because it is an important program.
Very good. My second question is about the newcomers. And I know that there are newcomers who come from places that they do not put emphasis on using the library. And when I look at the numbers, right, you're talking about through the Library Champions project, you have outreach to 1,067 newcomers. And at the end, only 53 of them get a new library card. Is that, do I get the numbers right?
Through your worship to Councillor Al. No, what that is those are our champions. There's 53 champions. But what they do is they go out into their community. So whether it's at the colleges, the learning English schools that they're going to, their places of worship, that's where they're talking to community and promoting the library to them. So during the pandemic, we had 53 library champions. It's a program that goes strong and federal funding.
Good, very good. Yeah, I hope that there are more newcomers using the library. And my third question is about the summer reading, particularly on the One Book, Three Cities. So how did it go this year? I know that, you just finished the summer vacation, but can you tell us something about how did it go this year?
You bet I can. So this year we had Michael Ondaatje. He was our guest author, and everyone read his book, In the Skin of the Lion, over the summer. We had a forum, and it was really nice this year because we had 4 cities participating, so 2 from China and Wakayama from Japan, and it was a really great session. It was taped. I'm not sure if it's still available on our website. I think it's expired now, but it was really interesting to hear Mr. Ondaatje talk about how he writes and some of the experience he's had throughout his life. So it was well received. It's always a little bit more difficult in a virtual environment than it is in a in-person environment, but we look forward to continuing to work with the Sister Cities Advisory Committee on offering that program again in 2022.
So do you have the number of people who joined the program this year, roughly?
Not right off the top of my head, but I can get that for you.
Okay, good. My last question is about the opening of the library during the attack of the heat waves. So we know that we keep the libraries open during those heat waves. And again, did you observe that there's more people using the library during the time?
Through your worship to Councillor Al, during the heat dome, we weren't open, but by the second events, we were. And we noticed coming in to take respite, so we were really pleased to be working with the city, community centers and civic facilities to make sure we were open to offer that space. And it depended on the weekend. Sometimes we saw more people at different times, sometimes we saw less. But definitely we had people using us that weekend to come in and stay cool.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Councillor Hobbs.
Thank you, through the chair. Actually, my questions were already asked and answered, but I will make just a quick comment. I actually want to congratulate you not just on the report, which was really comprehensive and concise, but I want to say it's impressive to see how necessity being the mother of invention, or in your case, innovation, the projects that you put in place to reach out to the community during a super challenging year, and maybe perhaps even more so for libraries than some other organizations. I just thought it was very impressive. You've already answered questions on the ones that I was going to comment on, but I did want to just mention that the innovation and creativity you showed in reaching out to the community almost makes it look like you've had more community contact through these creative programs than perhaps in a normal year with the library open. I'm not saying that's the case, but I'm just saying it was impressive. Thank you.
Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Your Worship, to staff from the library. Just a couple comments further and then a few questions, or maybe just one now. So I'm helping to raise a very avid reader, just a 2-year-old, but I can't believe how many books she can plow through. And to hear about the no late fees that change, I think when that came in, it was a bit contentious for people who've grown up in that era, but to have had our library staff and board make that decision to go forth with that, and to hear some of the positives from it from members in the public I've heard from, and then the example today about families being more open to take out books when one person who's not reading it isn't held responsible for the fee. So that's great. Really positive in the report to hear about the RPL to go mobile unit coming next year. I know out in Hamilton, it's been kind of a regular thing I hear from my neighbors, is the fact that services are lacking, and during the pandemic, when a whole building like our community center and school is closed, there's no access to any of the spaces within it. So it made it hard. So to hear that mobile units are going to be added to the fleet, that's terrific. Hopefully it's some electric vehicle too that can plug in at the site. Question then is in the report, the annual report that goes in the coming in 2021. It talks about cool technology and this laser cutter coming. So my question is about that cutter, and is there other equipment that's technology that we have like one of, and it rotates through all sites? Like this laser cutter, is it just going to be at the main branch, or will people who do go into the Hamilton library have access to it there as well? Yes, so that's probably my only question. Thanks.
So through your worship to Councillor Wolf, one of the things we want to do is try and get that technology that's in the launch pad out into the community. So the RPL to go van will definitely be electric, and it definitely will also be equipped with more than just books. So we want to be able to take that technology out. It's difficult. I don't know about the laser cutter. I'm no expert on laser cutters. But I know with 3D printers, there's smaller printers that we can take out. And we've taken our printers from the branch, from Brighouse, to the branches. And that's something that we want to do because we know not all community can come to Brick House. Not all community can travel to one of the other branches that has those services. So that is the purpose of that van, is to ensure that we're able to get out into the community and take our services everywhere. So, I know that. So.
All right, Councillor McPhail.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you to the delegation for being here tonight. It's been a pleasure to be the liaison to the Richmond Public Library Board, and I know that staff and the board worked really hard during the pandemic, and I think we all knew that public libraries were important institutions in the good times. We knew they are safe and welcoming for people from all walks of life, but I think that libraries really evolved during the pandemic, and they really learned to meet the needs of all our communities, but especially the most vulnerable people in our community who were so affected by the pandemic. So thank you for all that you do, and I'll see you at the end of the month.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Jordan and Susan. Thank you for your report. Thank you for answering the various questions that were posed. And, of course, thank you for the great work that has been commented on all throughout the year. Another challenging year, and you've really come through it so well. So, again, please pass along our thanks and congratulations to the board, to the staff, to the volunteers, everybody who is involved in the effort. It's really great to have such a robust Richmond Public Library. So thank you. With that, we've got no delegations, so we don't resolve in the committee of the whole. Brings us to the consent agenda, which is receipt of committee minutes, the soil removal and fill deposit regulation bylaw and the amendment, the housing agreement bylaw to permit the City of Richmond to secure affordable housing units at 9700 and 9720 and 9800 Williams Road. And finally, the land use application for first reading, which will go to public hearing October 19th. 9631 Patterson Road, rezoning from RS1E to ZS30. May I have a motion to adopt these by general consent?
Move adoption. So moved.
Moved and seconded. All right, Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'd like to speak to two of the items, 7 and 9, but it's likely I'm going to be opposed to number 9, so perhaps we could maybe just decide now to have it removed from the consent agenda, and then I'll just speak on 7.
Just let me, what about number 7? What are you talking, you want number 7 removed?
No, 7 fine. Just have a very brief comment on that, and then I do have questions on number 9 and comments to go.
Okay, so we'll remove number 9. Okay, from the consent agenda. You had other comments. Go ahead.
Yes, I appreciate it. Thank you. So on number 7, the soil removal and fill deposit regulation bylaw, I've had concerns along the way. I appreciate the fact that staff have reached out to various ministries in the province for their comment on our change. And I have to be honest, I'm surprised and maybe a bit disappointed in the provincial government that some of the ministries don't have more overlap and responsibility for how municipalities have soil moved around. Albeit, I do know we went to stakeholders in our advisory panel and other major agricultural stakeholders in the region, and they did support the language in it, including the security deposit, which was one of my biggest concerns in the past. So although I did not support this bylaw in the past, I've come to see that this perhaps is the way forward for this bylaw, and what's needed is perhaps incentives to help us transition some of these properties to actually doing more benefits than just holding fill. But that'll come another time. Thanks.
Councillor Day.
Thank you very much, Mayor Brody. I had a question on number 8, which is the housing agreement to secure affordable housing at 9000 block of Williams. On page 78, it says that the owner will manage the housing, and there will be a declaration process once a year. So given that it's up to the owner of these, I think it's 3 units, to manage it. If we go to page CNCL 101, it has an information table. And what I'm concerned with is while affordable housing is limited to a certain income and a certain amount of rent, according to page 101, there can be fees collected for parking fees, move-in, move-out fees, storage fees, amenity usage fees, and other hard-to-read tenant fees. What would happen if this landowner decided to charge all these fees? Would it still be affordable?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, I don't have the specific details regarding fees in front of me for this development, but the standard approach for Lemur units is to prohibit additional fees being passed on to tenants. For more information, we'd be happy to follow up via memo.
Well, I'm concerned. I mean, I'm ready to support this because obviously I'm looking for more affordable units. But if you could please refer to page CNCL 101, I thought that the deal was with Lemur units that the rent was the rent and no extra fees could be charged. So why is this on this statutory declaration information table?
Yeah, through your worship to Councillor Day, sorry I misunderstood the question. Now looking at page 101, this is the city's standard template for the statutory declaration process. And those columns that reference fees are included just to double check that property managers are not passing on fees to the tenants. And in another spot in the agreement, there's typically a clause that prohibits fees being passed on to tenants.
Okay, so that's good news. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that. So obviously, when they submit these declarations once a year, I'm hoping that staff is going to go over this with a fine-tooth comb.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, then I'm good with this. Thank you for your help.
All right, I'm going to call the question on the consent agenda with number 9 having been taken off. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Now we'll go to Councillor McPhail as Chair of Planning Committee to introduce number 9.
Thank you, Your Worship. Number 9, application by Paul Atwell for rezoning at 9631 Patterson Road from single detached RS1E to site-specific single detached ZS30 Patterson Road. Planning Committee recommendation that Richmond Zoning Bylaw 8500 Amendment Bylaw 10287 to create the single detached ZS30 Patterson Road zone and to rezone 9631 Patterson Road from the single detached RS1E zone to the single detached ZS30 Patterson Road zone be introduced and given first reading, and I would so move.
Second.
It's moved and seconded. Did you wish to address it?
Thank you, Your Worship. The applicant has applied to the City of Richmond for permission to rezone the said address in order to permit the property to be subdivided into 2 single-family residential lots, each with access from Patterson Road. A new single-family dwelling was recently built on the western half of the subject site, and the eastern portion of the site is currently vacant. A new site-specific single-detached ZS30 Patterson Road zone is proposed in response to the abutting provincial roadways on 2 sides of the property. And it conforms to all other zoning bylaws. Thank you.
All right, Councillor Wolf.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm going to have a few questions to staff on this one. So I attended the Planning Committee meeting last week and had looked at some photos when you put this address in, the overhead photos or the street view, and it's very different from what's really there, which I went to see in person yesterday. So my question, I guess I need to start off with here, and I think this either should be referred back in the end of this, or if not, I'll have to be opposed. So my first question to staff is, when the first house was building approval or design permit panel, or all of that, when that was done, was the part that we just heard referred to as the vacant land on east half, not quite half, was it deemed to be landscaped and permeable surface?
Through your worship to Councillor Wolf, the building permit was issued for the western half of the lot. In terms of, I believe your question is conformance with site coverage and the rest, the building permit was considered as if the subdivision would be approved. So through this rezoning application, we verify that each lot would meet zoning in terms of site coverage, landscaping, and permeability.
Thank you. To follow up on that, the original house that was there, which you can see in some of the 3D photos online, had a large stand of trees in front of it. And I know in the report it mentions that there were 4 new trees built on lot 1, and there's going to be 2 in the place of 1 they want to take down. But all of those other trees, did when this happened was before my time on council, but did the tree bylaw not exist, or why were there not more trees to replace all of the ones that were cut down to make this vacant lot?
Through your worship to Councillor Wolf, in terms of the house that is being constructed, that house would have been reviewed through the building permit, and the tree preservation would have been evaluated as part of that building permit application. The authorities under a rezoning application are different than the authorities under a building permit application. In terms of the specifics for the tree assessment with the building permit, I do not have that information before me.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. A follow up, if I may, through your worship, just a few more short comments and points here. The fact that the trees that were removed to make the vacant lot did not apply to the previous one, the lot 1 to the west, and they're now not going to be applying to this property. According to the report, there's only a 2-for-1 replacement. The issue is the future residents who are going to live in this property and are going to be extremely close to Highway 99 that's swerving around their back corner. And as we've just heard, the George Massey Crossing project and potential for more traffic heading towards that way, it would seem that there really should have been more buffer provided with trees planted way back when the other ones were removed. So the fact that this development is not including any a high level sound barrier and row of trees to help to deafen some of that sound, I think puts the future residents in jeopardy. And also, it seems like this is an example of us allowing the tree preservation bylaw to not be followed as it was intended. So it seems like a loophole has been found, and I think it needs to be addressed. And so for those reasons, maybe I'll hear a comment from Councillor Day, who's going to talk next, but if there's no other comments opposed to it, I won't ask for a referral. I'll just vote against it. Thanks.
Councillor Day.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to disagree. This would be pretty much a horrible place to live, but I guess there's less and less lots available for redevelopment, so not my first choice. But my question was more about the Ministry of Transportation. I had asked in Planning Committee that was the Ministry of Transportation consulted regarding this development, because I was worried that maybe at some point they would have to expand Highway 99 over and that lot would be needed. But on page 107, it has been confirmed that the Ministry of Transportation has given conditional approval. My question is, it says preliminary approval has been granted by the Ministry of Transportation for 1 year. Does that mean that if this developer does not build this property within 1 year, they would have to go back and ask for permission once again from the Ministry of Transportation?
Through your worship to Councillor Day, in any time we have a rezoning application that is directly adjacent to the ministry's highway or within 800 meters of a controlled access to the highway, the Ministry of Transportation and Highways has approval authority over the rezoning application. It's standard practice to refer the application to them for approval under the staff review. Their original approval is granted on a preliminary basis for 1 year. They will still need to provide formal approval prior to rezoning adoption. With respect to the highway's proximity to the subject site, I would just like to say that the application does come with a covenant ensuring that the new house must be constructed to CMHC standards in order to address highway noise.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, let's call the question then on the motion. All those in favor? Those opposed? It is carried with Councillor Wolf opposed. That brings us to public announcements. We do have a few announcements to make tonight. First of all, there's a couple of items coming out of closed meeting. The first one is on the city grant program, and the revised funding for the 2022 city grant program and other operating grants was approved and funded from the COVID-19 Safe Restart grant received from the province. I know there was particular questions a while ago about what we were doing with that money from the province, and so that's the answer, at least in part. Also from the advisory design panel, Mr. Kush Panach has been appointed for the remainder of a 2-year term, which will expire December 31st, 2022. More generally, people will realize by this time that September 30th has been noted to be Truth and Reconciliation Day, and our city, in keeping with federal and provincial government declarations, will recognize Thursday, September 30th as the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation. This day is a time to recognize and reflect upon the legacy and impact of Canada's residential schools on Indigenous people. We expect limited city services to be available on the day and are looking at appropriate educational and awareness opportunities for the community. More details will be shared shortly through our website and social media channels. At the same time, we've got Culture Days. September 24th is the start of Culture Days, a month-long national celebration of arts and culture. Richmond is proud of our vibrant arts community and cultural roots, and a number of free or pay what you may activities are planned virtually and in person across the city. For details of activities, live events, online, digital content, and self-guided programs, go to culturedays.ca. And of course, Culture Days, we've been proud of what we've done, and we've won awards for that, for our participation in the past. Then we have the vaccine passports. Important information for anyone wishing to use or register for a city program, class, or recreational facility. From today, you must show proof of having had at least one dose of COVID-19 vaccine using the BC vaccine card. This can be shown to staff either through the app or on a mobile device or as a printed copy. In accordance with the provincial mandate, entry or participation will not be permitted without this proof of vaccination. So if you want to get your vaccine card, which so many people have, go to gov.bc.ca/vaccine card. Then we have our street banner contest deadline. Richmond's annual street banner contest is one of the city's most popular programs, with dozens of residents submitting artwork and photographs to adorn our streets and public areas. So the deadline this year is this coming Friday, September 17th. So you want to look on our website and you'll get the contest rules, and you can also submit an entry that way. So we've had so many creative and wonderful banners in the past. I know that this year is going to be no exception, so get those entries in, because that's what makes this program such a success. Then we have the community murals. If you own a highly visible building that you would like to have enhanced with a professional mural, then please let us know. The city's public art program is looking for locations where it could manage and fund murals to enhance the community. For more information, visit our website. Deadline to submit a proposed location is Monday, September the 20th. And I'm sure everybody has seen a number of these murals around the city, whether it's on the Curling Club. I see they're just finishing up one on the Gateway Theatre. There's ones in the industrial areas and various other places. The community mural program really has enlivened the city, and so make sure you get your ideas in if you want to participate. And finally, we have the federal election. Now, the advanced polls have already opened, but this coming Monday, September 20th, is voting day in the 2021 federal election. We encourage all registered voters to exercise your democratic right and cast a ballot for the candidate of your choice. For more information on candidates, polling stations, and procedures in Richmond, go to elections.ca, and let's get a high turnout for this federal election. So, Madam Clerk, bylaws for adoption.
Thank you, Your Worship. There are 7 bylaws for final adoption. The first 1 to 5 have no noted opposition, and bylaws 6 and 7 have noted opposition.
Let's go for one. May I have a motion on one? That's on 1 to 5. So that's moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Then the 6th one on Francis Road, Madam Clerk. So we've got Richmond zoning bylaw 8500, amendment bylaw 9974. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried with Councillor Day opposed. And the zoning bylaw 8500 amendment bylaw 10035 on Railway Avenue.
Moved.
That's moved and seconded. Discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried with Councillors Steves, Wolf, and Day opposed. Madam Clerk, Development Permit Panel.
Thank you, Your Worship. There are 2 recommendations for Council. Recommendation 1, that the minutes of the Development Permit Panel meeting held on August 11th and August 25th, and the Chair's report for the Development Permit Panel meetings held on October 15th, 2020 and March 10th, 2021 be received for information. Number 2, that the recommendations of the panel to authorize the issuance of a development variance permit for the property located at 8240 Number 5 Road and a development permit for the property located at 5751 Francis Road be endorsed and the permits so issued.
All right. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. Discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Someone move adjournment?
Adjournment.
Thank you. We are now adjourned.